Episode 2, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, was such a breath of fresh air and gave us an opportunity to say goodbye to characters that we're definitely gonna have to say goodbye to next episode. I want to get this out of the way. Obviously, I love this episode, so when I did my live chat after A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, by the way, I do live chats 10 to 15 minutes after every episode, so join me after episode 3 when I have mascara streaks running down my face, because episode 3 is going to be a rough one. But anyways, when I did my live chat after episode 2, I got the feeling that a lot of people didn't like this episode because they thought it was too slow-paced or they didn't progress the storyline, which is funny because I love this episode because they slowed it down. We could catch our breath and just see our favorite characters one more time hang out before we say goodbye. It almost felt like a gift from the showrunners to us. Here are those that are left after all these years coming together. Here are some of their last moments together. I find it so funny that people complain nonstop about how fast-paced last season was, and now they're complaining that this episode was too slow. It's just proof that you can't please everyone. Someone's always gonna be pissed. Someone's always gonna say, you're doing it wrong. I'm one of those people. I should be pointing the finger at myself. I feel like people who say this episode didn't move the plot forward at all forget that you don't need action and a fast pace to progress. Not only did we see the plot move forward, but we got a lot of foreshadowing of characters' fates. This episode is a setup so we can fully enjoy the breakneck speed of episode 3. Though before I get too far into this, I do want to talk about how much I love the title of this episode. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms was a nod to Brienne and Jaime. What makes this even more fun is Brienne was confirmed by George to be a descendant of Sir Duncan the Tall, whose stories are collected in a book called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I just feel so loved from all these little Easter eggs and references from the books we got this episode. I mean, heck, even Jenny of Oldstones that Pod sung is from the books. Well, they made up most of the song, but they got the song from the books. It's in the books. Anyways, I truly love the quiet before the storm, and that we got to wrap up character arcs in beautiful ways, such as Brienne being knighted, and instead of people shaming her, they applauded. She wanted to be a knight her whole life, and despite upholding the values of a knight, arguably better than some actual knights, she was only ever mocked and laughed at. Now, after everything she's been through, her word means the difference between life and death for Jaime. She is commanding Jaime in battle, something you'd never think would happen. She became a knight, and instead of people mocking her, she got applause. At this point, you'd think Brienne got everything she ever wanted. To be a knight, respected by others, serving someone that deserves to be served. A man being into her, though she more cares about 2 certain other men. Which, by the way, showrunners confirm Brienne is in fact in love with Jaime, she just doesn't know it. Seems weird she doesn't know she's in love with him, but okay, maybe she's just not used to that type of love? Because obviously her love for Renly was different. I just hope Jaime returns her love, but since he'll probably die, it's not going to matter. And not die in this battle. Die when he goes to King's Landing and chokes out his sister. But still on Brienne, it was just so wonderful to see all these things coming together for her. We even had her, not a squire, Pod, who spent so much time getting his ass beat by Brienne, finally showing he learned from one of the best and is now training and schooling other people. And Brienne looks on with so much pride, though tough love, he still has a lot to learn. Though, and I'm actually fearful for saying this because don't ever say anything you're hopeful for. You know how certain characters are knighted after surviving a big battle or war? Do you think Pod will survive and be knighted at the end? Or do you think he'll die next to Brienne? That could be bittersweet. Pod survives and is knighted, but it isn't by the person he wanted to do it. Brienne, because she's dead. Oh my god, is the bittersweet ending for Brienne that she became a knight something she always wanted and now she's going to die mere hours later? I am not ready for episode 3. But since I was just talking about Jaime knighting Brienne, there were definitely some really good Jaime moments this episode. I love that this man is so humbled. A man that has led armies, that he asked to serve under Brienne. That isn't the Jaime we knew from the first season. Though he still has his arrogance because he knew Brienne would vouch for him. Look at that little smile. Though on that meeting, they wasted no time with that opening. They just went right into Jaime in front of Dany at Winterfell, at the Winterfell leadership table. I was really hoping Jaime would have his moment of telling Dany why he killed the Mad King, but I guess that's just Jaime's thing. He considers his best deed the one he's most hated for, and he doesn't owe anyone an explanation. Plus, come on, Dany knows how batshit crazy her dad was. And you can say what you want about Bran not being Bran anymore, but him saying, "the things we do for love," was definitely a bit of, "watch yourself. I know what you did." Which, and I can go more in depth post-season, but I really love this part of Jaime and Bran talking post the little trial they had for him.
Not that person anymore.
You still would be, if you hadn't pushed me out of that window. And I would still be Brandon Stark.
That was some powerful dialogue. It can be hard to let go of things we've done in the past or what others have done in the past, or acknowledge they did horrible shit but they grew as a person, and they aren't the same. Would it be great if people could grow without having to do or experience awful things? Yeah, but that's not life. So I really love that moment, but I also loved when Bran messed with Jaime a little bit, saying, "How do you know you'll be alive after the battle?" Bran is so creepy, I love it. Actually, oddly, a lot of scenes that had a good emotional punch had Jaime in them, such as when Jaime tells Tyrion Cersei uses the truth to tell lies and she fooled me, and Tyrion goes, "No, she didn't. She never fooled you. You knew who or what she was and you still loved her." That was like a backhand to Jaime. A lot of us wanted to see the moment Jaime saw Cersei for the monster that she is, for him to realize, I put my dick in crazy. But here we learn absolutely Jaime knew who and what Cersei was, and he still chose to love her. He still enabled her. Jaime is just not redeeming himself for pushing a kid out the window, but also for allowing a monster to do terrible things because he loved it. Honestly, I could talk about Jaime this episode for hours, so let's move on to Jorah, who let us all know he's over Dany, at least romantically, and he's happy that she found love with Jon. Jorah before would do anything to be close to Dany. He was so in love with her. Now he's helping Tyrion keep his position as Hand. He gave Dany dating advice and how to deal with her man's family. Jorah has grown so much as a person. If he were to survive and Dany dies, I could see him going to Bear Island to lead, because this cute little bear is dying for sure. By the way, I love the two cousins arguing and going at it. Amazing. Lyanna doesn't take shit from anyone, not even another Mormont. Sam giving Jorah the sword, I get why that was symbolic, but I don't know. I think Sam should have kept it. Maybe it's too hard for him to keep his family's sword knowing what happened. Maybe he just doesn't want to be reminded right now. Or maybe this is a way, as Sam said, to honor Jorah's father who believed in Sam and made him the man he is now. That was an equally big moment for Jorah. Overall, I am so proud of Jorah, and I absolutely loved him this episode. We of course saw more growth with Sansa showing she is done being manipulated. Dany tried to pull the whole women in power, we're sisters thing, trying to get on Sansa's good side. However, Sansa is not going to be manipulated anymore. She is done being controlled. She's letting Dany know, I'm happy for you and Jon. I love Jon, but my love for my people is far stronger. I'm not Jon. I won't throw my people away for the love of one person. I'm not saying any shit about Jon, and you could argue all that, but most people will understand what I'm trying to say. Oh, watching Varys, by the way, was a lot of fun this episode. He is the master at reading people and situations. He sees how cold Jon is now towards Dany, and he is worried. Varys isn't stupid. He knows if Jon turns against her, the North is lost to them. But let's talk about Dany, because she is scaring the fuck out of me. She is getting so aggressive and manipulative. How she said Warden of the North was so controlling. Do you agree with your sister, Warden of the North? Or do you not want to give me any more mustache rides? And then when Jon revealed who his biological parents were in the crypts, Dany wasn't concerned that he was her nephew. Hey, I have another Targaryen buddy. Oh my gosh. We're the last of our family. We should definitely get married now and pump out sweet little incest babies to keep that bloodline pure. No, her first thought goes to the Iron Throne. I understand from her perspective this could be a scheme in the North trying to get power, but For the throne to be her primary concern in all this without her acknowledging, I'm not a Targaryen alone in the world anymore. Though she is right, Jon all of a sudden being the heir to the throne, backed up by his friend and brother, is a bit suspicious. Dany already told Sansa that Jon manipulated her into helping. She might begin to think Jon is further manipulating her. Because she's crazy. She's crazy like her dad. We are going to see the Mad King 2.0 this season. Oh boy, let's talk about that scene that freaked people out. Arya's sex scene. I've been very upfront that I don't care about sex and nudity. I feel like we make too much of a deal about the human body, so that didn't bother me, but I do understand how some people may be bothered because we started off this series with this little girl.
Hey. What are you doing with that, son? Go on.
And now we're seeing her have a sex scene. It can feel weird to some, although some may be happy to finally get to see Maisie naked, though it was just a side view. And I'm sure there are plenty of people that just don't care. I personally think it was tastefully done, considering the sex scenes and nudity that we've had in the show. They could have been a lot more crass. Instead, they were able to give her a sex scene showing she's grown up without being raunchy about it or maybe freaking people out more by showing too much. Here's what I wasn't prepared for though. Arya has a jealous streak with boys. Her asking how many women Gendry's been with definitely was a woman trap. I'm just not used to seeing flirty, jealous Arya all wrapped into one. Seeing her flirt was definitely interesting. However, I'm more interested in post-sex. Arya did not look impressed. So either Gendry is really bad in bed, or she just wasn't into it. Or maybe she's thinking about the coming battle. She had the face of someone that wanted to experience something, experienced it, and then thought, that's it? Okay. And now is moving on. I have a feeling that Gendry is going to be really into Arya and post the battle want to be with her, and she's gonna be like, nah, one night stand. Sorry. Though she is an assassin, so maybe after being allowed to have some of her humanity back, she slips the mask back on. I will say my major interaction complaint this episode is the Hound and Arya. I think the first interaction they had in episode 1 was perfect. It just summed them up so well. As I said in my episode 1 review, she and the Hound had the exact conversation I expected. The Hound doesn't respect excuses or ego. Arya was just savage with him, which he respects. You left me for dead. First I robbed you. That is all those two needed to say to each other, and boom, the respect is there. They understand each other. The conversation in the second episode just felt so unnecessary. There isn't anything more they needed to talk about. It just felt like the showrunners were trying to beat us over the head with, see? The Hound is here because he cares. And he cared about Arya. Yeah, no shit, we already knew those things. We didn't need this scene. You ruined their cute, amazing reunion scene in the first episode. Fucking idiots. And how about Missandei wanting to take Grey Worm to Nath? Watch out for those butterflies, dude. It won't be so fun when your skin slides off your bones. Also, them talking about their future together is super foreshadowing one of them dies. Kind of like them talking about how safe the crypts are is definite foreshadowing of people dying there. Why would you keep saying how safe they are? We're not that stupid, come on. Also, that little girl that looked like Shireen being encountered by Gilly and Davos, two people connected to her, yeah, that little girl is dying in the crypts. Now let's talk about that end shot that maybe gave me hives. This was a lot of White Walkers, all with dragon-killing ice spears. We don't know how long the Night King has been collecting babies, so who really knows how big his army is? Though if we see more than the usual amount, I might scream. Could he have dozens? This battle is going to be terrible. And honestly, the Night King's plan does make sense. If he wants to wipe out all of humanity, he wants to wipe out humanity's keeper, lore keeper, I guess you could say. Person who knows all of time. That's the person I would go for. If I was an undead monster. Which I am not. By the way, Bran's plan is going to go horribly wrong. And no offense to Theon, I would not want him guarding me. That's not the first person I'd pick. Theon, I love you. You're fantastic. I would not choose you. But even though this is all going to go to hell, at least Bran is going to figure out whether Dragonfire actually works against the Night King so he can catalog that for a few seconds before he just becomes super dead. By far my favorite moments, Tormund telling the bear story, which comes right from the books, Theon and Sansa bonding and having fantastic chemistry. Also making Dany feel like everybody likes Sansa. But Sansa hates her. Seeing that Ghost is still around, that was nice. Thanks for spending some of your budget on that, D&D. The beautiful shot of Ed, Sam, and Jon on the walls of Winterfell for a mini Night's Watch reunion on a much tinier wall. Although stop talking shit about Sam, Ed. I'll fuck you up. And finally, everyone reminiscing of where they've been and the battles they've fought. Okay, so that's my episode 2 breakdown. Like, subscribe, and buy some tissues. Episode 3 is going to be horrible.